I'll start explaining things, but we won't start painting just yet. So if you're still opening up your canvas or getting anything ready, you still have a couple of minutes before we'll actually start painting, but I'll kind of explain how things are going to work. So first of all, you've got a picture that came in your bag of the paintings that we're going to work on today. Now it's the same painting, but there's kind of two different versions of it. So if you are an artiste and you love doing art and you like being extra creative, and you're maybe faster at your painting, or maybe you're a little bit older, there'll be steps along the way that are kind of optional extras. Like, so this is a simpler version of the painting, and then there's a slightly more complex version of the painting. So I have two of them, so I'm just stacking them on top of each other. So if you're younger, or you're not as familiar, or you haven't done a lot of painting before, or you take a little bit longer, that's okay. Yours can look a little bit simpler, or maybe after we're done on the call, you can add some extra details.
I've been painting
so as I'm going, so as I'm going, I will say, if this is all you can do, then that's great. But here's some extra stuff you can do if you want to try those extra steps. So everyone's painting will look a little bit different, and that's great because we're all creative in different ways. And when artists sit down and try to paint the same painting, they all end up looking a little bit different. And that's just because we're all unique and we're all made special. So they will all look a little bit different at the end, but that's okay. So don't worry if yours doesn't look just exactly the same as your siblings or as the one that I'm working on. One of the things that's cool about the painting we're doing today is it is monochromatic, which is a fun word that just means it's all essentially one color, just lighter and darker versions of that same color. So we're doing everything in blue, and we're just making it lighter blues or towards white, darker blues or towards black. And we'll mix our paints together to get all these different colors just from blue, black, and white. And that's called monochromatic. So I know you're all muted, but can you all together say monochromatic?
Monochromatic.
Good job, everybody. There you go. Monochromatic. Good job, everybody. So we're going to work on our monochromatic paintings. There's two really important things that we want to keep in mind as we're painting, because this kind of painting has lots of layers that build on top of each other. So when we like that, there's two important things to remember. One is to use just a little bit of paint. We don't want to scoop up tons of paint and slop it on the canvas, because then your first layer won't be dry when you go to put the next layer on. So we want to start with just little bits of paint. You can always add more, but it's a bit tricky if you put too much on to start. Then it's a bit globby and it's going to take a long time to dry. So we'll start with little bits of paint and we'll just add as we go. So that's the first thing. It's really important, is just a little bit of paint at a time. The second thing is that if you're not really sure, or you don't feel very confident in your ability to paint, is to remember to just take it one step at a time, because we're going to go with very simple shapes and very simple steps. And if we do all of them one at a time, we should all have a beautiful owl at the end of the day. Okay, can we do thumbs up if we're ready to go? Awesome. Okay, so the first step that we have to do before we start actually painting the owl is to take our blank canvases, just kind of set them aside, and get out our little egg carton looking shells that we have to mix our paints. And we're going to get our paint colors ready first. So you should have your blue paint. So if you get mom or dad to help you, we're going to fill one of our little cups with some blue paint, just like that, just a little bit to start. We're going to do the same thing with the black paint, and just fill one of the little cups with your black paint. And then the same thing with the white paint. Now this is where it gets kind of fun, because we have to mix a couple of colors now. We want to take that blue and we want to make a medium blue and a darker blue and a blue that's very, very light. So we want to take the blue, and on the other 3 on this side, just put a little bit of blue. So not very much, just a little bit of blue. And then to the one at the very bottom, so if you have your paint in your spots like this, and then just the little bits of blue on the other side. And while we're doing that, I'm going to use one of my Q-tips that came in our little baggies. I'm going to use one of the Q-tips as kind of my mixer to mix the paint colors together. We good to keep going? Yep. Okay. So I'm going to add to the little one here that's got just a little dab of blue in it that's next to the white. I'm going to put in quite a bit of white paint. We're going to kind of fill the rest of that with white paint. And take our Q-tip and stir it all together. Nice. And stir it up. You should see the blue start to come through to make a very, very light blue color. Okay. For the next one, we're going to do the same idea, except this one is next to the black one, and we're going to make that a very dark blue. So we're going to do the same thing we did before, but instead of mixing in some white, we're going to mix in some black now to fill up the rest of that cup with some black paint. And then you can just use the other end of the Q-tip and mix this one together. This will be a little bit harder to tell when it's mixed because it's so dark, but you should see that it looks a little bit more blue than it did before. And then I'm just going to take this Q-tip and kind of put it off to the side so it can be thrown out later. We won't need to use that again. Okay, last thing that we need to mix is a blue that is more, it's still darker, but not quite as dark as this one here. So we're actually going to add a little bit more blue. So kind of double up your amount of blue. And then just a little bit of black this time. So not quite as dark as we did before. I'm going to grab another Q-tip and mix up this last one.
Miss
Okay.
Janine,
Yes.
they're just still trying to get those colors just right in their little paint pods there.
Okay.
We might just need a couple more minutes.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
I can see the blue color on my paint. The bluish color.
Good. It might be, I'll bring this a little closer to the camera because it might be easier to see that there is actually a difference in those colors, even though it's a bit hard to tell from the table. And I'm going to take a sip of tea while we wait for you guys to mix your paint.
Miss Janine, while we wait, do you want to tell everyone how you got into painting or what your favorite part about painting is, maybe?
Oh, that's a good idea. I have always loved art since I was a little kid and loved coloring and crafting and all kinds of different projects. I absolutely loved it. and I just kind of kept doing it. So we did different things when I was growing up. I've tried knitting and sewing and painting and taking pictures with a camera, done lots of different kinds of arty things, and have just always loved it. And painting is one of those things that's really fun because you can kind of make a mess. It's a little bit fun to get a bit messy sometimes. And you can do it in so many different ways and so many different styles. You can make something look really, really real, or you can kind of splash a bunch of colors together and see what comes out of it. So painting is, you can be very, very creative with painting. So that's one reason I really love it.
That's awesome.
All right. Are we ready to get started, do we think? Okay, so what we're going to start with first is the background, which is kind of, if you can see it, I'll pull this painting back in. The background is made up of lots of kind of circles that go from in the middle of the painting out to the outside of the painting. So it looks really pretty, but it's very, very simple to do. So remember our 2 rules. We start with just a little bit of paint and just add a little bit at a time. And I just blanked on what the second rule was. My train of thought just went somewhere else completely. Oh, right. Simple shapes. Simple shapes. That was the second one. So sorry, guys. So we're just going to take a little bit of paint with your, the kind of fattest brush that you have. So whatever is like the widest flat brush that you have. Everybody's brushes are a little bit different. That's okay. We're going to dip just with a little bit of white paint. So see, I'm not taking very much. And we're going to start right in the middle of your canvas with just a white circle. It's going to be a little hard to see on the canvas because the canvas is already white. But we're just starting with a little white circle like that. And then we take a little bit more paint. We're going to make our circle a little bit bigger. And then what we want to start to do is we've got kind of one circle. Now we want to start drawing circles around it that go from this really light white color all the way out to our darkest blue. So you want to take a little bit of our next lightest color, the light blue, and go right around where you just painted the white. And if it overlaps a little bit, that's okay, because that will just help blend the colors together. So it can be a little bit messy. It doesn't have to be really perfect. I'm going to take a little bit more of that light blue paint and finish my light blue circle. And you get something that starts to look a little bit like that. And we're just going to keep doing that same thing. So going from lighter colors in the middle to getting darker and darker. So our next darkest color is just our regular blue. Okay. So the other thing to remember too, and this would be helpful for some parents as well, for the younger kids, if they get like a step or two behind, we will hit a point where they can kind of catch up while I give some instruction for the older kids for like extra details they want to add. So there will be a little bit of space if someone's taking a bit longer for them to get caught up. So next step is going to be our regular blue. That's our next lightest blue color. So I'm just going to take a little bit of blue on my paintbrush and the same thing. I'm going to go around my circle, going to overlap it a little bit with that light blue color. And it'll start to kind of blend together. Just take a little bit on my paintbrush and just go all the way around doing that same thing.
And remember, you can see Miss Janine has really little bits of paint at a time, so it's not getting too thick, because this is still your background and you don't want it to be too wet for when we have to do the foreground later.
Yeah, that's a good tip to remember. Thank you, Pastor Kirsten. So as our circle is getting bigger and bigger, we can see that the colors are going from our light, light white, and they're starting to slowly get darker and darker as we go out. Just a little bit of paint at a time is all you need. You can see there's not even really any paint left on my paintbrush when I'm done doing that. So just using little bits of paint at a time. Everybody doing okay? Awesome. So next step, we're just going to keep doing the same thing. Is going to our next darkest color, which is the one beside our blue here. It should look almost like a tealy color. And we're just going to take a little bit of that and do our next circle. This is where it starts to look a little bit more like a nighttime sky. And our circles are getting bigger and bigger. That takes a little bit more dips of the paintbrush to get all the way around my big circle. And this circle with this color, we can make a little bit wider than we made the other ones. So it can start to go almost to the edge of your canvas. Make it a nice big circle. All the way around. Making it nice and wide.
Miss Janine, we're using the third darkest blue, right? Someone's just asking. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the one that when we mixed them, it was next to just kind of your regular straight blue out of the bottle. So it was a darker blue, but it wasn't super, super dark. It's the medium. Yeah.
Right. I think that's the one that you just put a couple of drops of black paint in that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're using a different color and it doesn't look exactly like mine, that's okay too. Because remember, this is the background. A whole bunch of this is going to end up getting covered up. And it's okay if things look a little bit different too. Everybody does art just a little bit different. We can see our circles just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There we go. So to finish our background, and again, if you're not quite ready yet, that's okay. We'll have a minute in a second to kind of take a break while this dries. So if you're still catching up, that's okay. For those who are ready to go, the next step is to take our dark blue. So not the black, but the one that's right next to it that just has a little bit of blue in it, but it's mostly black. And we're going to use that to finish off all the outside edges. So it won't really look like a circle anymore because our canvas is missing over here. But we're going to finish up all of the outside edges now with the darkest blue color. If you did the darker blue on the inside, you could use the black to finish up your outside. And we'll do the exact same thing we did before. Overlap a little bit. And now we're filling in all of our white space. When you do this, you can go over the side of your canvas a little bit too, like that's okay. If you get paint on the side of your canvas, that's perfectly fine. So it should start to look something like that. And then we just keep going, filling in the rest of our night sky.
Are we using the black or the mixed up black with a bit of the blue?
The one with just a bit of blue in it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Pastor Cheryl, you guys are working so hard. I love to see them. They're so colorful.
Just remember, they're all going to look a little bit different, and that's okay. That's what happens with art. It always looks a little bit different. So we're going to wait here for everybody to kind of get caught up. So if you're not done doing all your circles yet, that's okay. Just keep working on your circles. For anybody who's kind of got to this point and you've been keeping up with me along the way, we do need to clean our brushes now because that looks really dirty. So if you have your water, we're just going to clean up our brush in the water and then use either the paper towel or rag that you have there to just wipe it off. And we'll get our brushes ready for the next step. And pastors, if you guys could just kind of keep an eye for me on when the majority are in a spot to keep going, then we'll go to the next step. I feel like we need some like music on in the background or something while everybody's working.
They are doing such a great job.
Oh.
Everybody's almost at the end, right? I see that. Amazing.
Awesome. So, well, if we're getting close to being wrapped up, then that's great. Anybody is kind of ready and you're just waiting, here's one of those times where if you want to add a little bit more detail, we've got a little bit of time here, we can add a teeny bit more detail. So you'll see in my example painting, which I use a different paint, so the blues are a slightly different color. You can see in the simple one, we just did the circles in the background. But in the one with a little bit more detail, we put some stars in the night sky. So if you want to, and you're ready to go, all you need to do is take the tip of your paintbrush that's not the end you usually use, but the other end of your paintbrush, dip that in your white paint, and just kind of put a couple dots on your canvas, and you make stars in the night sky. So if you're waiting for everyone else to catch up and you want to add a little bit more detail, you can add some stars to your night sky. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. And you can focus your stars around the edges because the middle is going to get filled up with your owl. So you don't need to fill it with too many dots because the owl will be there. And your dots don't have to be perfect. They can just kind of be in random places, and that's okay because that's what the stars look like.
I accidentally messed some water on my painting.
If you've got a little bit of water in your painting, if you can get some paper towel and just very gently put the paper towel on top of the water, don't wipe it, just kind of set it on top. That should help absorb the water and not ruin your painting too bad, okay? Give that a try if mom or dad is there to help.
Okay.
And then I'm just dipping the end of my brush in the water to clean off that tip of the brush that I just got a little bit dirty making stars. You guys are all doing such a good job. So the next thing that we need to do, your painting might still be a little bit wet, so just be careful not to touch it. That's okay. The next piece that we have to do is this branch here that our owl is going to sit on. So we have to use our black for that, just the black, no blue in it. We're going to draw the branch that our owl is going to sit on. And we talked about doing simple shapes. So we want to take one of our brushes again. It can be the same brush you were using before or one of the slightly smaller ones if you want to use a little bit of a skinnier one. We want to take our black paint and essentially draw a really long, skinny triangle. So I'm going to go from one side of my painting and I'm going to draw one side of a long, skinny triangle. And then I'm going to draw the other side of a long, skinny triangle. Just like that. And then at the end of the long, skinny triangle, we're going to add a skinny rectangle, kind of like that.
What color are we using? I didn't see.
We're using the black. So we've got very long skinny triangle and then a rectangle at the end. And once you've drawn those, then we just paint them to fill them in with your black paint. If it mixes a teeny bit with the paint that's underneath it, that's okay. Just do a little bit at a time. And you'll start to see when you fill it in that it starts to look like the shape of a tree branch instead of it being a triangle and a rectangle. And there we go. We've got a branch for our owl to sit on. While everybody's doing that, we can see this is the simple branch that we've just done in our simple example here. And if you're done that and you want to do a little bit more complicated, you can add a couple little branches that come off of your main branch. And you could add maybe another one in the top corner. But that's only if you're all caught up and you have a little bit of extra time. You can always add that at the end too. You could always add this branch at the top at the end once we're done. So while I'm waiting here, I'm just going to add a couple more little branches to mine. Those are pretty much just little lines that come off your branch. For any parents watching who understand the reference, this is when we make our happy little trees.
No mistakes, only happy accidents.
Yep. And when your branch is done, we're going to wash our paintbrush again to get all that black paint off.
I can't see my branch.
My branch is too big, so I can't do the bottom branches coming out of it.
That's okay. Like I said, everybody's will look a little bit different, and that's totally okay. And pastors, I'll just get you to cue me again when you think we're ready for next step. I've managed to not drink my paint water so far, so that's good.
Or put paint in your tea.
Yeah, that's the alternative too, is accidentally putting the dirty paintbrush in my tea.
What? How could you do that?
I have a cup of tea that's next to my artwork.
Okay, maybe we'll do 30 more seconds. But if you're finishing your branch up, make sure you just get as much done as you can so we can keep going. And you can always add some more branch at the bottom at the end because I don't think the owl covers that.
Yeah, exactly. So you can always do a little bit more on the branches at the very, very end because it's not where the owl goes. So. Okay, so now we're getting to the exciting part. We've just been doing the background and getting the background all ready. We've got this beautiful moon in the night sky and all of the stars and a branch that's just waiting for an owl to sit on it. So we now get to start our owl, which is what we all came here for, was to paint an owl. So you'll want to take one of your kind of medium-sized paintbrushes. This is the medium-sized one that I have. And we're going to do the owl in the light blue paint. So not the white, but the one that had a lot of white in it. That light blue paint is how we're going to draw the owl. And the owl is actually very, very simple. His body is like a big oval. And then we're just going to do 2 little triangles on the top of his head to make those owl ear feathers that make it really look like an owl. So we're going to dip our brush in our light blue paint and start kind of right in the middle of your canvas. And we're going to start to do a big oval. You can make your owl as little or as big as you want. I'm going to make mine pretty big to fill up a good chunk of my canvas, but you can do a little owl too if you want. You can choose to do it a bit different. We're just going to do a nice big oval in that light blue. Just taking a little bit of paint at a time, just like we've done all the way along. When you get to the tree branch, just be careful not to mix your painting because your tree branches are probably going to still be pretty wet. So just, you can keep your oval just kind of on top of the tree branch. So they're touching, but they don't overlap. So I'm going to kind of do it a little bit like that, just along the tree branch and then connect up to the rest of the oval. Once you've got your oval shape, we just need to fill it in with that light blue color. Remember to take just a little bit of paint at a time and fill in our shape. So it's kind of fitting. When you're done, it's going to just look like a big egg sitting on a tree branch. So we haven't turned our egg into an owl yet, but it's just going to look like a big egg sitting in a tree.
Can you give us a thumbs up if you're all caught up and you're exactly where Miss Janine is?
Sorry, my dog is coughing in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear that. There we go. When you're done, you should have something that looks kind of like that. Might be different size, slightly different shade of blue. That's all okay if it looks a little bit different. How are we doing with where everybody's at? We're doing okay? Oh, sorry, Cheryl, can't hear you. Yep. Awesome. Okay, so once you have your oval nice and filled in, it just looks like an egg. So we have to kind of make it look like an owl. So the one surefire way to make our big ovals look like owls is to add little triangles to the top that look like the owl's ears. So you don't want to make them too big because then it'll kind of look like a cat. We want to make it look like an owl. So they're just little triangles on the top of your egg, right towards the very edge. So not up the top here, but off to the side. We just want to make two little triangles. So there's one on that side. I'm going to do one on this side. We're going to have two little triangles like that. And then we just fill them in. And we start to get a bit more of an owl shape. Once you get to this point, this is another kind of stopping point where everybody can get caught up. I'm just going to clean off my brush again while we wait. So good tip when you're painting, whatever you're painting, to keep your brushes clean as you go so they don't get all crusty. It makes it a lot harder to clean them later.
I'm done.
Good job. Just wait for that cue again, guys, from you before I move on to the next step.
Do you think most of you are finished your eggs now? Can you put your thumbs up if you're ready for Miss Janine? All right, I see lots of people cleaning their brushes. You must be ready to go for the...
Okay, so yeah, get your brushes nice and clean. We're gonna take, I think that medium brush again. So probably that same one that you just used. And we're going to make the owl's tummy so that the owl's tummy is separate from the rest of the owl. So it's going to be another oval that we're going to do, but this time it's going to be a smaller oval shape inside of your owl shape. And because the paint is still a little bit wet, it might mix a little bit. We're going to use white. It might mix a little bit, but that's okay because it'll still look good. So just remember a little bit of paint at a time. And if it mixes a teeny bit with the paint that you just put on, that's okay. So we're going to go just with the white to make the tummy. And same idea from about the middle point of the owl. We're going to draw another oval in the middle. That'll be our owl's tummy. Kind of like that, kind of like drawing another egg shape on the inside of your owl. And then just like we did before, just a little bit of paint at a time, we'll fill it in. So it mixes with the paint underneath a little bit, so it won't look white. It'll just look like a lighter blue. And that's okay, because that's what we want it to look like. So it just looks like a soft, feathery, fuzzy tummy that you kind of want to tickle. And that's kind of what the tummy should look like. And we clean our brushes again because we have to clean our brushes all the time. Does it look like everyone's got their tummies in place? We're good to go on the tummies.
Okay. Oh, I see some thumbs up. I think people are ready. They're finished their tummies.
All right. So next step is the wings. So I'll pull in my example painting so I can show you what we're going to do here before we do it. So we've got our basic owl shape. You can see here the white from the tummy that we just drew is this white section in the middle. What we need to do now is take our bright blue, our blue that came just the way that came in the bottle. We didn't mix it at all, just our regular blue color. And we're going to draw a big kind of swooping half circle from the kind of top kind of shoulder where the owl is. And we're just going to draw it all the way down and then out the outside and fill it all in. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. So we're just drawing these big kind of football shaped shapes right now in blue on our owl. So I'll show you how to do it. Remember, if it looks a little bit different, that's okay. I'm just going to take a little bit of that bright blue paint, go from kind of the top of the owl's shoulder. You guys see that okay? And we're just going to do a big kind of swooping round line. Oh, I need some more paint on my brush. All the way down to the bottom. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side from the top. Big kind of swooping circular line there. And once we have that shape of where the wings go, we just want to fill in that whole section of your owl with the blue color. And that will make the wings of our owls. And you can take your time with this. It's okay to take a little bit of time if you're a little slower on getting that shape right. Same as we've done all the way along, just take a little bit of paint at a time. And you'll get where you want to go. And now our owl has wings. And once again, once you're done filling in your wings, what do? We clean our paintbrushes. The most fun part of painting, cleaning your paintbrushes.
Oh, it looks like everyone's cleaning their paintbrushes. Did you get your wings done? Thumbs up if you got your wings done. Oh, you guys are doing great. All right.
Okay, so are we ready for next step then? Okay, so now we get to start doing the owl's face. So what you're going to want to do for your owl's face is get the smallest paintbrush that you have, because we're going to do something a little bit more detailed. So the smaller the paintbrush, the easier it's going to be to get some of those details. And to do the owl's face, again, we talked about doing simple shapes. We're going to do 2 big circles, one on that side and one on that side, and that's going to be the start of our eyes. And then we're going to draw 2 little triangles, and that's going to be our beak. So that's where we want to start.
Just plain black, right?
Yep. So to start this out, we're using just the plain black. Remember, just a little bit of paint on your paintbrush. You can see I just have a little bit of paint on the end of my paintbrush. And owls have big, wide eyes. So you can draw really big. And you can see my circle's not perfect to start. That's okay. Really big circle for one eye. And then we'll do a really big circle for the other eye. And it'll kind of look funny right now, but that's okay. So something like that. I think mine's head is tilted a little bit. His eyes are a little bit askew. One's higher than the other, but that's all right. And once you have your outline of your black circles, we want to take a different paintbrush. So if you have another paintbrush that's maybe a medium size, and we're going to fill in those dark circles with the white. kind of like that. And then what do? Clean our paintbrushes. I have a whole special rack in my bathroom for cleaning paintbrushes. The last step to finish your eyes, or at least the kind of the eyeball section of our eyes. So you've got your black outline, you filled it in with white. We need to take our black again and do another circle on the inside that gets filled in this time. So your owl will look a little bit wide-eyed at this point, but that's okay. We'll add eyelids a bit later to make the owl look a little bit more sleepy. All right, so we'll take another minute or two for you guys to finish up your eyes, and then we'll move on to the next step. I hope everybody's having fun. Can't wait to see what your paintings look like.
I'm having fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Me too.
Me too.
That's okay. Like I said at the start, all the paintings will end up looking a little bit different, and that's okay. Sometimes
Looking
when we're
awesome,
painting,
Brooke.
we have little accidents, and that's okay too, and we learn from those, right? So I'm sure they're all beautiful. I almost grabbed for the water. All right, how are we doing on our eyes, everyone?
Everyone ready? Thumbs up. Next step. All right.
Okay, so we're going to quickly do a little mouth. So again, you want to take the smallest brush that you have, and we're going to do kind of like a diamond shape, like a square that's been turned a little bit. And you just want a teeny little bit of paint on your paintbrush. And you can almost do it like a stamp. Like I'll kind of show you here on the palette. So you can just kind of like stamp your brush a little bit, and it'll make like a little line like that. And then if you do it in kind of a square, I don't know if that showed up okay, but it's a little tricky because our owls are small, but we can do it. So right where the two eyes meet, we just want to draw a little diamond. Just like that.
Is it plain black?
Yep, still plain black. Good question. I did forget to tell you which color, so that's my bad. So you just want to do little diamond, and then across the middle of the diamond, you want to draw a line just straight across to make it into two little triangles. And now you have a little beak. That's a very quick step to get the mouth done. And then guess what we do? We clean our paintbrushes again. All right. So if you've got your little beak done, we're going to do one more step, and then we get to have some fun just kind of making our owls special and making them our own and adding kind of some decorations to our owls. So the last step that we need to do, we've got eyes and a beak and wings and a tummy and ears, but our owl does not have any feet, and our owl needs to have feet. So we want to take our white, again with one of your smaller paintbrushes, and we just want to draw like 3 little sausage shapes that all start at the same spot, but spread out a little bit. Just 3 little lines, 3 little sausage shapes, one in the middle and one on each side. So it kind of looks like an upside down flower a little bit. And then we do a second one, 1 little sausage shape, 2 little sausage shape. That's hard to say fast. 3 little sausage shapes that all come together in the middle. And those are your owl's little feet. And then we clean our brushes again. Okay, so once you've got your feet done, if you're still working on your feet, that's okay. Once you've got your feet done, we get to have a little bit of fun. So this is what I know we've already been having fun, but we get to be a little bit more kind of creative in how we do the next step. So in your little package that you have, you've got some toothpicks and some Q-tips. These are the tools that we're going to use now to kind of add some decorations to our owl. So you can add as many or as little decorations to your owl as you want. So this is the simpler example that I did. I did some V shapes in white on the wings. I did a few dots in dark blue on the tummy, and I did a little triangle of dots on the forehead, and I kept it very simple. I did on my more complicated one with more detail, I still did the V's on the wings, but I also did a whole row of dots. I filled the tummy with dots. I did dots all around the head. So there's a bit more detail, but you don't have to do it to look just like mine. You can use your Q-tip to make dots, but you can pick whatever color you want. So if I want to do like our medium kind of teal blue color maybe, and do a couple dots above the owl's face. There, I just did 3 dots on my owl. So you can use your Q-tips to make dots. You can use your toothpicks, are really good. If I use the dark color here to do little details. See how skinny that is? It's so much skinnier than you would get with a paintbrush. Little detail picks. So you guys have a little bit of time and have some fun and use the colors that you have and your Q-tips and your toothpicks to add some details to your owl. This is where everybody's is going to look unique, just like you guys are. You don't just have to do dots and V's either. You can do different shapes. You can do swirls or flowers or whatever you want to do to add some details to your owl.
I'm finished.
Oh, good. Different people will want to do different amounts of detail, so we'll all kind of wait a little bit till everybody's at a good spot. Remember too, you can always add some more detail tomorrow if you have to head to bed or you can't get finished tonight because of the type of detail that you want to work on. We can always add a little bit more detail later. Another thing you can do right now if you want to is add some extra color to the owl's feet. So we started off with white, but we can make them a little bit darker if you want to make them a little bit darker, or add some extra color to your owl's feet. Other than adding detail, we only have one more step. So I'll maybe get cues from pastors of if we should just do that now or, yeah, okay. So with one of your Q-tips, the only thing we have left to add to the owl is his sleepy eyelids that make his eyes look a little less wide awake and a little bit more sleepy. So if you're still working on your detail, you can pause on that for now. We'll do the owl's eyelids. And then, like I said, you can finish your detail either later tonight if you can still stay up, or you could finish some detail tomorrow. So what we want to do is essentially do half circles with one of our Q-tips over the owl's eyes so that we have these little half circles that cover the top half of the owl's eyes. And it's good to use the Q-tip because this paint might still be a little bit wet. So with the Q-tip, we can kind of dab paint on top of it and it's less likely to kind of get all smudged together. And depending on what color you did your details in, you could maybe choose a different color for the eyelids. I'm going to use our medium blue color. You could use the bright blue if you wanted, or even the black if you wanted. So it's your choice, but I'm going to use the medium blue. And I'm just going to kind of dot a row of dots across the top of the owl's eye. And then go around the circle part of the owl's eye. And then fill it in. Just lightly dabbing that paint on top instead of it mixing in. So it'll look something like that. And then we just have to do that on the other eye. And our owls are done. So same thing on the other eye. Just kind of do a row of dots across the eye. And go around. And then fill it in. I hope you guys had so much fun and I hope you love your owls. And if you're not quite done yet, you still want to add some detail, you can still do that. I had so much fun, guys.
Can you guys show your owls before you go?
Wow.
Can we see them?
We're going to do this so we can see everybody's.
Wow.
So everyone hold up your owls, even if you're not done. And we're going to take a picture of everyone's owls. So hold them up. Hold them nice
guys,
and still. They're beautiful.
You did so good. Look at them all. So we made monochromatic owl paintings and we had a hoot doing it.
I did tomato.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Those
You
are
guys did so
amazing.
good.
They look so good, everyone. Great job.
Oh,
Let's all just say thank you to Miss Janine. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.